Alright, in this video I'm going to show you how to provision a new virtual machine in the cloud and then install Linux on it and then install a basic web server so that you can write some web pages as well as run PHP on it. Okay, so that's your L and P part of your LAMP or LAMP server. I'm going to install Nginx and PHP, and also I will show you how to log into your server. So the first thing you want to do is you want to have an account at one of the cloud hosting providers, the VPS providers, virtual private server providers. So mine is Vultr. I also use a few others like DigitalOcean, Linode, and Babel. I used to use AWS, Amazon Web Services, but I don't use that anymore. Alright, let's deploy a new instance. We will use the Atlanta location, and we will use Ubuntu 14.4.04 as our operating system. We will use a small server size, the smallest one available. Let's enable IPv6, and here's the key thing. Vultr allows me to upload my public key, and that public key will be installed as the authorized key for the root user right when the server comes up. So let's give it a label. The name of the server we will give server 6, and let's place the order. At this point it is building the server. It has not even assigned an IP address, so let's we'll wait a couple of seconds and then get an IP address. Alright, so now our server has been assigned an IP address and it is up. We can ping it, for example. So yeah, it's responding to the ping, which means I can try to SSH to it. Now SSH secure shell client basically connects to the Linux machine. I am using Linux to connect to Linux, but if you are using Windows on your personal laptop or desktop, then you can use git bash. Let me just show you. If you search for git bash on the internet, you will find it quite easily. So yeah, so here git scm has git bash download, but or you could use putty, by the way. Putty is another one. So use any of those clients to SSH, and once you say SSH root at your IP address, and then first time when you do this, it will ask you that it's a new host, a new server that you are seeing for the first time. It has this digital fingerprint. Do you trust it? So I guess you will say yes. Once you do that, if your authorized key has been saved correctly, then you should be able to log in without a password, which this one did. Sometimes this particular virtual hosting provider, it takes a few seconds for my authorized key to get saved properly. So first time around it might ask me for a password, but then a few seconds later it doesn't. Alright, I'm logged in. The first order of business is to make this login faster. Right now it was taking a bit of time, so let's to allow me to connect, so I am going to open etc sshd _config, this file, and go to the very end of it. Shift G takes me to the end, and then I say disable, I'm adding a comment, of course, disable DNS lookups, which slows down everything, and say use DNS no. Okay, once you do this, save and quit, and now you have to restart your SSH service. With this, you can now exit and log back in, and it should be pretty fast. Yeah. The other thing is it seems to have a host name that, well, I guess that's okay. So let's the other thing I like is I like VI key bindings, so I say set -OVI, so that it, and then I can make it permanent by going to etc bash.rc, go to the end, and add the same set -ovi there. So that way I can use vi key bindings. If you don't prefer vi, then that's fine. You can just leave it in the default. Okay, now if I copy this IP address and then actually hit it with my browser, there's nothing there. There's no web server listening there. So because if you see netstat -ntap and grep for every listening port, only port, so netstat -ntap shows me all active TCP connections, and then I filter out only for listening connections, and that's only port 22. And port 22, as you might know, is SSH port. Okay, to turn this into a web server, I have to install a web server software. The one that I prefer is Nginx. So before I do any of those things, I need to do apt-get update to get the latest versions of all the packages. And then once that finishes, I say apt-get upgrade to make sure that my installed packages are at their latest revision. Then I can start installing Nginx. apt-get -y to say yes to all the questions. Install Nginx. That downloads and installs Nginx. At this point, if you check the same netstat command that I used earlier, suddenly port 80 is another new port that the server is listening on. And if I go back to the browser and refresh, okay, I already got Nginx. So this is Nginx running on my server. I can check by running ps-ef and grepping for Nginx, and yes, I see. So this turns my Linux server into a web server. Before I go very far, I should create a non-root user. Let's create a simple user. We'll use my own name as the user. So user add Jitesh, and put this user in additional groups, sudo group and www-data group, which is the web server group, and then create a home directory for him, and then assign him a shell bin bash. So the user has been created. Now in order for this user to be able to log in, his public key needs to be copied there so we basically we create in home Jitesh, create a directory called SSH, and then copy roots .ssh authorized keys file to Jitesh's home.ssh directory. Now since the directory and the file were created by root, Jitesh won't have any control over it. So let's fix that by changing the owner to Jitesh user and Jitesh group for the entire home directory that Jitesh owns. Okay. At this point, Jitesh will be able to log in. Let's see if he's able to. I change the user to Jitesh, and nope, not able to log in. So let's go back to being root. Something is not right. If I look at Jitesh's home directory, there is something wrong there. .ssh is still owned by by root. So let's fix that. I didn't change the owner of the home directory, but I did not change it recursively so that everything under that gets owned by Jitesh. So if I now exit and log in as Jitesh, I am able to log in. Great. Let's exit and go back to being root, because there is one more thing I need to do. Jitesh is not able to become root using sudo. I put him in the sudo group, but I need to tell the system that sudo group people should be able to switch to root without a password. So what in order to make that happen, I go to etc sudo ers.d, and then I create a new file in there called custom. You can call it anything, it doesn't matter what you call it. And then you have to put something very specific in there, and that is you have to tell the system that sudo group users should be able to switch to the root or do things as root without providing their password. So for that I have to put a particular string in there. Let me find it here. Yes, so in this file I paste this piece of text. The first line is a comment, but the second line specifically says %sudo all equal to all. I mean, you have to type it exactly like this, and then all users that belong to the sudo group will be able to switch to root without providing a password. Save and quit. Now we can exit the server. We are back on our machine, and we can log in back as Jitesh, and now I can switch to root. Now I became root, no issues. By the way, the host name, whatever the host name you have, should be able to resolve. So to fix that problem that it was saying that it's not able to resolve it, we copy the host name, and your host name probably is different, and go into etc hosts, and in addition to localhost, so the 127.0.0.1 should have a name localhost as well as the host name that you assigned. Save and quit. With this, when we switch to sudo, it stops. It doesn't give that error, that complaint that it was giving earlier, which is unable to resolve host. Okay. Let's exit back to Jitesh, and then let's create a directory where we will keep our website. Make directory, let's say dev web, and -p so that we can create dev and web in one shot. Let's go to the dev web and put index.html there, and here we say put a basic HTML page. So it's not doing indentation. Let's install Vim here. Sudo apt get install Vim, and once we install Vim, hopefully we'll have a nicer VI editing experience. Yeah, that's probably is better. Let's say head. Title. Alright, let's put a body. And okay, that's our web page. Now in order to make this the front page of our site, we have to create a site. Let's go back to being root and go to etc Nginx sites enabled. Now Nginx comes with two directories, sites available and sites enabled. So you keep actual files in sites available, which is this file, and then in sites enabled you create symbolic links pointing to the sites available files. and that way you could go to sites enabled and remove these symbolic links to disable a site. The site is still there, it's just disabled. Alright, so let's create our own site. We will say sites, in sites available we'll call it web. Create a server block, listen on port 80, although that's implied I think. Set a root directory of home Jitesh dev web. Set the index file to index.html, and that's all. Save and quit. Now sites enabled doesn't have the file, available has it, so we have to create a symbolic link. Okay, now we are ready to reload the Nginx configuration. So you say service Nginx reload, and then you go back and refresh, and you got hello web. Good, that's your website running on your own web server. Let's go further and install PHP also, because we want to see if we can run PHP. Alright, so we exit to being back to dev web, and then go one step above, and then let's create a new directory called PHP. Go to PHP, and we create a new file index.php, and in there we open a PHP tag, put PHP info call so that we can see the PHP status, and that's all. We don't close the tag because this is a code only file. Save and quit, and then we go back to being root, and then in sites enabled for Nginx we create yet another site. Let's disable this current site first, and in sites available we create a file called PHP. Same stuff as before mostly. The server name has to be there, but it doesn't matter so much. Now let's set a root directory, and that will be home Jitesh dev PHP. And then for index we will say index is index.php, not index.html. The problem is this alone is not enough to run PHP files. Let's see if this is enough. So let's suspend, let's create the symbolic link, and reload service Nginx reload. Okay, so now when I reload this, refresh, it actually downloads the index.php file rather than running it. That's because Nginx doesn't realize that PHP files are anything special. So we need to tell Nginx that when you come across a location that matches regular expression matching, that is .php, so just you have to put it like this: tilde means match regular expression, and then backslash dot means literally a period, not the special meaning that regular expressions give it. So we have to escape it with backslash, and then $sign at the end means this is the end of your matching pattern. This is the end of the pattern matches at the end of the string. So with that we say, now when you match such a location, then load the parameters that are, so include this file fast cgi params, and then do use fast cgi underscore pass to pass the request on to Unix var run php5 fpm.sock. The only problem is we have never installed PHP yet on this, so sorry. Let's save this and install that first. So we just say apt-get install, let's say apt-get -y install install PHP FPM. This is the fast CGI PHP server, PHP 5 and GD for graphics, PHP 5 curl for making web service calls from within PHP, and PHP 5 MySQL in case we want to talk to a database. And then finally PHP pair, or is it PHP 5 pair? I think PHP 5 pair. Yeah, let's install all these things. Pair is for package management. Yeah. Alright, oops, it didn't find PHP 5 pair, so let's just give PHP pair. That's right. Okay. Alright, so it's done installing everything. Let's go back here, and now this var run php 5 fpm.sock will work, but we need to make sure we have a symbolic link. We do, and we need to make sure Nginx has seen the changes by running service Nginx reload. And now we reload, and here you go, we got PHP running. This is all of the execution, this is all the information that PHP info has printed, and that shows that we have PHP running. Now go ahead and write all kinds of exciting PHP programs on your own cloud Linux virtual machine. Use Nginx. Nginx is a very fast server, and then MySQL and PHP to write your web applications. Thanks for watching.